This is IB Times TV, Tuesday, July 26th. I'm K. Cameron Lau. Robert Baer, author and former CIA case officer with over 2 decades of intelligence experience in the Middle East, has publicly proclaimed that Israel will bomb Iran this fall and drag the U.S. into a major and protracted military confrontation that will likely endanger American personnel and interests across the Middle East and beyond. Appearing early in July on the provocative KPFK Los Angeles radio show Background Briefing, hosted by Ian Masters, Baer predicted that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will likely instigate a war with Iran, and quite possibly before the General Assembly vote on Palestine, which takes place in September, in an effort to fully demobilize the country's nuclear capabilities. The ex-CIA official specifically predicted that the Israeli Air Force would attack Natanz and other nuclear facilities, and that the Iranians would strike back in places like Basra and Baghdad, which would ultimately force the U.S. to engage Iranian targets. Describing the dire nature of the possible scenario, Baer said, quote, "Our special forces are already looking at Iranian targets in Iraq and across the border in Iran, which we would strike. What we're facing here is an escalation rather than a planned out-and-out war. It's a nightmare scenario." While he did not quote any sources for his prediction, the few he did cite were all Israeli security figures like Mossad chief Meir Dagan, who have consistently warned that Netanyahu and the defense minister Ehud Barak are determined to strike militarily. In past speeches, Prime Minister Netanyahu has described Iran's nuclear program as an existential threat to the state of Israel and has warned that it risks a second Holocaust. Prior to his election in 2009, he publicly stated, quote, "I promise that if I am elected, Iran will not acquire nuclear arms, and that implies everything necessary to carry this out." In June of 2008, the Israeli Air Force staged a massive and internationally publicized air exercise over the Mediterranean Sea, where Israeli warplanes simulated attacks on targets more than 870 miles away, which is approximately the same distance from Iran's uranium enrichment facility at Natanz. Baer characterized the likelihood of an attack as, quote, "a near certainty," and added that the recent departure of Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, who used his influence to thwart an Israeli attack during the Bush and Obama administrations, has, quote, "left a warning order inside the Pentagon to prepare for war." While the consequences of an Israeli attack on Iran remain somewhat unpredictable, many fear that it would most certainly endanger the lives of countless Americans and bring an end to the economic recovery by causing oil prices to skyrocket. K. Cameron Lau, IB Times TV.